My name is María Elena Piñataro. I work for Oxford University Press, and I am in charge of the implementation of Oxford Test of English in Argentina, Bolivia, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Paraguay, right? And before we start with the presentation itself, I always like introducing Oxford University Press. Okay, let me tell you that Oxford University Press is the department of the University of Oxford that specializes in the publication of books and materials for English language teaching. You talked about books, and today we are going to see certifications from Oxford University Press. And as a department of the university, we are a non-profit organization, which means that all the money that is made out of selling the books and the materials has to be reinvested in research, so that then our books can be the best, as you have just described, and anything, all the money that is made out of it has to go to things related to education, right? So that is our mission, is to produce the best materials to support both teachers and learners in the learning, in the teaching and learning journey. Okay, so with that introduction, let me tell you what we are going to talk about today. Let's see what the agenda is. First, we will see what the Oxford Test of English is, then the suite of proficiency tests that we have, how the tests work, what makes Oxford Test of English different, is it appropriate for your students? The idea is to think if this is the certification for your students, and how you can prepare your students for the test. So let's begin with the question. And my first question is, what do your students use English language proficiency tests for? Why would your students be interested in a proficiency test? The bio. Mainly for further studies abroad. Okay, to work, to study, and you mentioned the work abroad many times, to apply for a job. Okay, right. So basically, we agree that these are the main reasons why students take an international certification, right? Now, which one of the characteristics is the most important to you in an international certification? If it is reliable, if it is flexible, if it is affordable, on demand, if it is online, all of them, neither of them, you can choose as many as you like. It's not that you need to choose only one. Or are all of them important?
Yeah, I'm going to speak because it's
yeah, it is. You're great.
Like. I know
Thanks,
what it feels
Carolina.
like.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's okay. No worries. Well, basically, I mean, in my case, my students they use it for everything. Most of my students they use it to go. I mean, to study abroad, to work abroad. I mean, and for further, because it's an important qualification, and whether it's Oxford, so it's renowned around the world. So I would say all of the above, depending on the different personal interests of the students.
Okay.
And the ages,
Right.
of course. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Carolina, for your contribution. And in relation to the most important characteristics, I agree with Sunny. She says most of the characteristics you've mentioned. And if I was asked this question, I would find it very difficult to choose one, because all of them are important. And the reason why all these characteristics are here, it's because all of them are part of Oxford Test of English, and we will see why, right? So let's see what the Oxford Test of English is. It is an affordable, personalized test that fits all the students. And here I will highlight these two words, affordable and personalized. Why do I highlight these two? Because affordable, then we will talk about the test center, which is British School in Cordoba, but the price is really competitive for an international certification, which is designed by Oxford University Press and certified by the university itself. And it is personalized because it tests 3 different levels. So any student when students take the exam, the experience is a really personalized one. Okay, and then we will see how the test adapts to the student's performance. It is 100% online, which does not mean that students can take it at home.
Okay.
We need a test center, which is British School in Córdoba. And we need a test center because in order to provide an international certification, we need certain security measures to be in place so that the certificate is valid and the test is reliable, right? So, for example, at British School, students need to show their identity card to prove that they are who they say they are. Then the computers are equipped with an application, which is a lockdown browser, which means that when the application is so open, there is no other content that can be accessed in the computer. It's just the test. And there are invigilators seeing that everything goes according to international standards. Okay, so it is online, but we need to take the test at the test center. It is flexible and fast, and by flexible, I am referring to dates because there are no fixed dates for this test. This test can be taken 365 days a year. So Silvia, who is the test center manager, will be very happy to go on the 25th of December to,
For sure.
to make a toast
my
with
glass.
the students.
My
Absolutely.
glass of champagne, of course.
Yes, yes. That's not the case, but what we mean is that there are no fixed dates, so you can coordinate dates with the test center. So if you feel that, and I don't know, but in Buenos Aires, for example, students in the last year of school, after the winter holidays, it's like they start with the graduation trip, the party, so many things. And probably you say, well, maybe it's better for my students to take the exam before the winter holidays. So you talk to Silvia and you say, well, these are the dates that we can offer, and you can organize exams in the dates that are best for you and for your students and for the center. And why do we say that it is fast? Because it only takes 2 hours to get the exam complete. So in 2 hours maximum, it can be a bit shorter, but in 2 hours maximum, the test should be complete, right? And what I mean by 2 hours is the test itself, right? Maybe there are some minutes that are necessary to check identity, to leave all the things outside. But in 2 hours and a half, the exam should be over. And it is available at approved test centers around the world. We have a network of test centers in all the world, British School being one, the one in Córdoba, right? And I see that there are some comments. Let me say if there are, no, it's not a question. So, which exams make up the suite of proficiency tests from Oxford University Press? There are 3 versions of the Oxford Test of English. We have Oxford Test of English for schools, for students who are aged between 12 and 16. Oxford Test of English for learners who are over 16. And Oxford Test of English Advanced for students who are over 16 and want to certify C1 level of the Common European Framework. What are the differences between Oxford Test of English and Oxford Test of English for schools? Basically, the lexical areas and the tasks that are appropriate to the age of the students. So if we think about Oxford Test of English for schools, or if we think about Oxford Test of English and a question is, which country would you like to visit? Maybe a student who is between 12 and 16 or 15 does not, their knowledge of geography is not so wide and does not know which country they would like to visit. So probably the question there would be, what is your favorite subject at school? To make sure that the correct or incorrect answer has to do with the knowledge, their proficiency level, and not background knowledge, which they may lack in certain contexts, right? And then Oxford Test of English Advanced is for students who are over 16 and want to certify C1 level. Now, this is very, let's try again, because it's very difficult for me to go in the slides without the animations. Here you can see Oxford Test of English for schools, Oxford Test of English and Advanced. If I click here, do you see the only differences are?
No. No, just the same screen, Mariana.
Content? No, well, okay.
No.
Okay, so let's continue like this. Now, the Oxford Test of English, well, these are the characteristics that I have just mentioned. So, Oxford Test of English certifies, tests the 4 skills. So we talk in the test, we talk about 4 modules, which are the 4 skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Certifies 4 levels, which are A2, B1, B2 for Oxford Test of English and for schools, B2 and C1 for Oxford Test of English Advanced. And why do we say that it is for life? Because the test, there is no expiry date to the test. What can happen is that an institution that recognizes the test or that accepts the test as a proficiency certification may say, well, I want a test that was taken 2, 3, 5 years ago, but the test itself never expires. And the 4 skills, of course, are speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And in order to get the certificate, students need to take the test, the 4 skills. But then if you imagine, for example, a student that gets B1 level in speaking, listening, reading, and A2 level in writing, may retake only that module and update their performance, their mark in that module individually. Okay? And the speaking and the writing part are marked by assessors who have been trained specifically to give marks to students' productions. The tests are aligned to the Common European Framework, of course, and this is what I told you before. Oxford Test of English and for schools certify A2, B1, and B2 levels. Oxford Test of English Advanced certifies levels B2 and C1. I've given you a lot of information, so I'm going to stop here and check if there are any questions, anything you would like me to repeat, anything that was not clear, anything that I have forgotten, Sylvia?
No.
We're okay? Yes, all good. So let's continue. And of course, when I said for life, and these are the reasons you mentioned at the beginning why your students take an international certification. And Oxford Test of English is recognized by a growing number of institutions, universities, organizations in all the world. We have a group, a team in Oxford, specially dedicated to finding recognition in institutions in countries, in English-speaking countries, right? And our local team is in charge of finding recognition of local institutions. So this is something that we are constantly working on. In our website, you can see the list of institutions in all the world that recognize the Oxford Test of English. And as I said, it's 100% online. We need a test center, British School, to administer the test. All the activities are administered in the computer, and there is no speaking examiner in the room. The speaking part, and this is something that we get many questions about, the speaking part is done with headphones and a microphone, like the one I am using now. Students get the rubrics or the tasks on the screen, which they can read. Then that rubric is also read out loud to them, so they hear what they have to do. And for example, they get a task which says, you have forgotten your keys at home, leave a message to your mom telling her the time you will be arriving, why you forgot your keys, and asking her if she will be home to open the door for you. Then they hear, now you have 20 seconds to think about your answer. And then they get the 20 seconds, and then now you have 1 minute to give your answer. And this may sound a detail, but they have the timing on the screen. And this is something that really helps students to organize their speech. So whenever they give their speaking productions, they know how much they have spoken for and how much time they have left. So this is an element which may seem a detail, but really helps speech organization. I know how long I have spoken for. I know how long I still need to speak. And so my discourse can be far better organized. Yes,
I have a
sure.
question. No, what happens if a student doesn't speak for 1 minute in terms, not in terms of the exam itself, but rather in terms of the software? Does it get stuck? What happens there?
In all the parts, students need to cover the whole time.
All right.
Right, in the speaking part. So the time will continue until all the time is covered, and the next task will start. So
But
nothing
it won't get
happens.
stuck? Okay. My question is, if they stop speaking, it doesn't get stuck. I'm asking you this because with some exams that are computer-based, that happens. Namely,
Okay.
the exam. That's why I'm asking.
No. Time continues going by until the time is over, and the next task appears on the screen. Nothing happens. The thing is that, of course, the production will be assessed in relation to how long they spoke for, the complexity of vocabulary and grammar that they have used.
Okay, thank you.
Right? And then, how does the test work? Here, reading and listening are computer adaptive, and we will see, I don't know how this will work with this way of presentation, but we will do our best to show you what we mean by computer adaptive. They are shorter than traditional linear tests, and this is because the adaptive nature of the test makes it possible to calibrate the level of the students in fewer questions. So as this test is adaptive, students don't need to complete the same 20 questions everybody to see what the level is, but the computer, the system, finds tasks which are suitable or which are appropriate to in relation to the performance of the student. So with fewer questions, the level can be calibrated much faster. And they are individualized and secure because all students get different tests. So this question of, I look at the other person's screen, that will mean nothing because there is no way I can get any information because all students get different tests. And for the speaking and writing, they are randomized tasks. Again, the tasks are the same. It's an email, it's an article, it's a review to write, but they are randomized. So every student gets a different task. The responses are recorded and marked by trained assessors. This is what I said before. Okay, so what makes it different? Let's think about a traditional test in which we have 12 questions, all students answering the same questions, right? And so if a student, if the test is at the level of a student, this student will get most of the answers correct, 2 may be wrong. And when this student leaves the room and you are waiting for them out there, because many teachers go with their students the day of the exam to see how they did, or you send them a message, or their parents send a message and they ask, ¿Cómo te fue? What would the answer be for this student?
Great.
Okay. Great. Yeah, this was okay. Yeah, good experience for this student. Now, how about this student if we give them exactly the same questions? He performs okay in the first two questions, but then we see that this is not the test for him. ¿Cómo te fue? Horrible. Horrible, no sé ni para qué fui, ni para qué me anotaste ese examen, que no me salió nada, okay? And how about this student who gets all questions correct, and maybe if we give him questions from C1 level, he will also be able to perform well. What would this student say? ¿Cómo te fue? Una pavada.
It's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, 5 minutes, I completed everything. So if we give all students exactly the same questions, the experience of each student will be completely different. So how is it different with the Oxford Test of English? All students start at a low B1 level, an item from this level, and so the algorithm says this question is okay. I give a question from the bank a bit more difficult, it's okay. And when this student gets a question 4, the algorithm says, she doesn't know this question, so I give her a question of a lower level. And in this way, this is what I said, the algorithm calibrates the level of the student. So in the previous test, we needed 12 questions for all the students, whereas here with 7 questions, the computer calibrates the level of the student and says, okay, this student has a B1 level. When the question comes, ¿cómo te fue? Bien. Estuvo bien. Me fue bien. What happens with this other student who in the previous experience said this is too difficult, I couldn't solve the activities? Well, the algorithm will know that this student is here and will not give him questions that he will find undoable. So when he leaves the room, he will also say, ¿Cómo te fue? Bien. Both of the students will have a good experience in the exam. Of course, the certificate will be B1 for this student and A2 for this student. There will be a difference, but not in the experience of the test, in the certificate that shows their level. And then we will see what we use the certificate for. But the experience will be a good one for both students. And this is why we say that the Oxford Test of English is really different. And the experience for all students is a good one. I'm sure, I'm convinced that whenever there are 2 students in a classroom, there is a mixed ability classroom. It's impossible to have students of the same level in a classroom. All students have different needs and different performances, and this is something that includes all students. So you will not need to tell one student, you can take the exam because you are up to the level, but you can't, you wait. Everybody will take the exam, and then the certification or the certificate will tell their level. It's a different way of seeing assessment, and I will go a little bit backwards in how and the philosophy behind Oxford Test of English and the way in which Oxford University Press sees assessment. And we believe that assessment is a fundamental part of the learning process. You cannot change, or you cannot make informed decisions without information. So assessment provides information, and that's why assessment should always be assessment for learning, even though it is a proficiency test. So if we take assessment as assessment for learning, this will tell us where we are. We know where we want to get with our students, and so we can make informed decisions of how to get there. But unless we have information, and so the idea is the test is not something you pass or fail. The test is something that provides you information to make informed decisions so that your learning journey can be redirected or confirmed. You say, we are doing great, let's continue this way. Okay.
Mhm.
And I always give the same example. I hate getting a blood test, but unless I get a blood test, the doctor cannot see that I have cholesterol and give me the correct medication. This is the same. I mean, but the idea is let's use it to our advantage. I mean, this is not something to be, of course, in a test, it's difficult not to be nervous, but let's see it as a part of the learning journey, of what we have to do if we want to continue progressing. Okay? So I said that the Oxford Test of English takes a maximum of 2 hours. Why? Because speaking takes 15 minutes. And I go to Sylvia's question. The speaking part is the one that uses the full 15 minutes because students need to speak. One task finishes with the time, and then another task, and then another task. Listening takes a maximum of 30 minutes. And why do I say a maximum of? Because students need to listen to the task and to the text once for sure. Now, if a student is sure about the answer, they can click the answer and a blue button appears on the screen that says next, and the student can decide whether they want to listen to it the second time or not. So here there are two advantages. On the one hand, the headsets make students, no students will feel that they could not hear well enough because all students have their own headphones. And on the other hand, they decide their rhythm. It's not that they need to listen to everything twice because it is repeated like that in the recording, but they can choose first time for sure, second time my decision. And when you when you are an invigilator in the exam, you see the difference in the rhythm of each of the students. You see that they go at different rhythms, and that's why the experience is personalized. What I said at the beginning. Students go at their own pace. Same happens with reading. They have a time. When they finish the task, they click next. If there is a maximum time to the task, so if they don't finish within that time, the test directs them to the next question, right? There is a maximum time, but then again, students go at their own pace. And in writing, again, there is timing, but another important characteristic is that they have the word count on the screen. So if they get a rubric that says you need to write between 60 and 80 words, as you type, you see how long you're writing. So there is not this question of, I have written 200 words and now I need to rearrange all my piece of writing. I have a clear reference of how many words I have used and how many words I have left, right? And so in a maximum, if you add all this up, it gives you a maximum of 2 hours, but it can be shorter. What does the test look like on the screen? For example, in the speaking part, this is what I told you. Here you have the counter with the time. Students have the rubric, but they also listen to the rubric with this icon. So I say, you are going to give a talk to talk. Read and listen to the task, right? And then when this finishes, they have the 30 seconds to think about their answer. And this button becomes purple, and this is when they can start recording. And they have the time here for how long they have spoken for. For the listening, you have the typical activities in a test. Again, you have the time. Time is not that important in listening because you listen, you choose the answer, and then you pass on to the next question. Reading, again, you have different activities, multiple choice. You have to see who says who, what, and you have the time over there. For writing, students need to choose one of the questions. No, sorry, this is still reading. They have to choose the questions. And for writing, here you have the task that they have to do. They have the time, and here is where what I mentioned about the words, the word count. And what does the certificate look like? This logo means that it is certified by the university itself, and it is a certificate that is accepted by the University of Oxford at C1 level. So if a student wants to go and study at Oxford with C1 level, the proficiency language level is accredited. Then you have a number. With this number, any person or any institution that recognizes the test can verify the fact that it is a true certificate. Yes, we have the service of verification of certificates so that nobody submits a certificate which is not true. We have an overall mark, B2, from the Common European Framework, and the scale, the number that they got. And this is what I told you about the modules. You get a level for each of the modules. And if this student says, okay, in speaking, I did not get B2 level, well, I can just retake this module and the certificate will be updated automatically in the platform. And this is seen, if I don't know if you can see here, but here it says speaking taken on the 3rd of September 2016, listening on the 25th of June. So here you see that the certificate is updated automatically if a new model is retaken. And the last one is the logo of the Oxford University Press, the one that develops the test. And then, big question, and how can I prepare my students for the test? And here I will go back to our philosophy and to assessment for learning and to what our objective in the classroom is. I will use a Spanish saying, which is, no pongamos el caballo adelante del el carro adelante del caballo. The objective should always be teaching English. Right. Any material, all the work that you do in your classrooms should be, or the objective of all your work should be to develop your students' skills, their ability to speak, to read, to listen and understand, and to write. And then you can show, or students can prove their level with a tool. Oxford Test of English is one of the tools to prove all the work that you have done in class, your students outside of class, during their whole learning experience. And so we don't talk about preparing for the test, but familiarization with the test format. Because all the tasks that appear in the test are the ones that appear in any textbook. So what you should always prioritize in your classrooms is the methodology. What methodology is best for your students to develop their 4 skills? The activities in books are generally very similar. The activities in tests are very similar. So what we believe in is, of course, nobody goes to a test, sits and says, a ver, ¿qué onda esto? I mean, that doesn't work like that. Of course, they need to know what to expect. And so we talk about familiarization with test types, and we provide free familiarization material. In oxfordtestoфenglish.com, we can then, Silvia, send an email with all the information to all the people that enrolled. We can prepare that if you cannot copy now or if you cannot access now, no problems. But if you go to oxfordtestoфenglish.com, there are 3 demo tests. One for Oxford Test of English, one for Oxford Test of English for Schools, and one for Oxford Test of English Advanced. This is exactly the test experience that your students will have the day of the test. The items here are not adaptive. They are exactly the same items. So if a student wants to familiarize themselves with the format and takes the demo 20 times, the 20 times they will receive exactly the same questions, right? And this does not provide any certificate. The idea is I will go sit, and this is what will happen to me the day of the exam. This is what I will find. And then in the demo, you have the 4 modules. It takes the 2 hours, but there are no results, and it is not adaptive. Exactly what I have. It's like I have studied the slides before. It shows. I'm a good student. And then another thing that we provide for free, downloadable from our page, are practice tests. 2 per level and per type of test. So there are 2 B2 Oxford Test of English, 2 B2 Oxford Test of English for schools, 2 B1 level, B1 for schools, A2, A2 for schools. And we provide this because, or to show students that, or yourselves as well, but the degree of difficulty of the tasks in the different levels. So with this, you can say, my student may be at a B1 level. So it's better for them to practice with tasks that are at that level. Everything is downloadable for free from the website, the tests, the keys, the audios, everything. And the same thing, and this is how you see, you can download the test, the keys, the script, and the audios, everything. Then there are speaking and writing tips that you can download to work in class with your students. And for the advanced test, there are videos, the demo, sample test, and there is an online interactive course for free. Why is there a course for C1 level? Because there are 2 tasks in particular, which are the ones that make the difference between B2 and C1. And it's students receive 2 texts to speaking test. For example, one which is a scientist talking about something and a news report about the same topic. And what they have to do is make a summary and a synthesis of that. And the same happens in the writing. And that is an activity which does require more preparation. And here I would say this is the only activity that requires drilling for the exam. Students need to be prepared for that. And so that's why there is this online course only for C1 level, right? Again, it's free from our website. And where can you find it? This is what the website looks like. There are different tabs. Yes, the first one is about the test. When you go for test takers, it says get ready for the test, and you have all the material there. And in the tab that says who accepts the test, there you find all the institutions worldwide that recognize the Oxford Test of English. So, as I said, there are more than 950 institutions that accept our test. It's been developed after more than 10 years of high quality research and developed. This is a test that was launched in Argentina in 2018, but 10 years before, people were already working towards getting this certification really appropriate for students. There are more than 400 test centers worldwide, British School being the one in Cordoba. It's online and adaptive, and it's communicative, what students need to know and what students are able to do. There is no drilling and there is no just focusing on the exam. It is the only test certified by the University of Oxford, and this is, if you visit our website, you will find the test centers and all the information.